So, today we are at MHCP Mentor Office Hours Mass 3D Textures with Space Glitter Unicorn. Hello, it's me. Okay, so the skills matrix alignment is art, and the subsection would be assets, the design and creation of static meshes for use as world environments or items, props, wearables, characters, including meshes and textures. Alrighty, so important info. This session is recorded. The session will be posted on the Learn site later. You guys don't really have to mute yourselves. You you guys are the regulars, and I appreciate you. But I for sure do welcome a little chit chat. That would be great. Um, while I am presenting, you can raise your hand, use the Zoom. Um, keep questions concise, keep them short. Share context beforehand. Post your question with details in the channel if possible. Be active in the chat. I always say, let's have a party. I like a good party. Fill out the feedback survey. I will have that link for you guys afterwards. So please, 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 it's really important you fill that out. It helps us with programming. And also tag me in the appropriate channels or forums for feedback. I always look forward to seeing people, like what people make. And please don't be afraid to show your stuff, because it's really cool to see. Um, hold on. All right. So these are the levelers to success. Documentation. We always have documentation, so definitely refer to them if you ever get stuck. Practice. I always say practice, practice, practice. Don't be afraid to ask for help. You can reach out to us in the proper channels. You can reach out to people, anyone in the forums, and we always have eyes there. And hopefully you'll get that rocking and rolling. Okay, and so I'm going to show you how to make a flower. Not this one per se. You guys are going to get this asset at the end. But I'm going to show you my process on how I make this. So it's like super fun. I am using Procreate, but literally you can use anything. If you have a piece of paper and some colored pencils, oh my gosh, that is so fun. I used to do a lot of watercolor art, which is a lot of fun too. Um, paints, you can use AI. You could tell AI, hey, make me a petal, make me a leaf, and you could probably like end up making some like alien like plants and stuff. So there are many different ways to do this. um Really, it depends on how creative and how fantastic you want to be with it. So to start off, every time I do a drawing on Procreate, I usually I don't like to use like a white background. I like to use a darker background. I don't know, it's just easier on the eyes. Okie dokie. So first we're going to start with a petal, and I'm going to try to make this super duper quick, like super easy, super quick. But first, what I'd like to do is I'd like to turn on some symmetry because that helps. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go here and turn on that symmetry. And of course, you have different modes for the symmetry, and you could also use this radial symmetry, and look at how cool this is. So if I were to see, you can make like mandala flowers if you want.
I was just gonna say Manal.
Yeah, it's super fun. See, and you could, but to me, this is a little too symmetric. I like for some movement and flow, but you could do, this reminds me of the Rapunzel flower. Flower gleam and glow. There you go. But yeah, you could also do it this way. But just put that away. I usually like to just do one petal. So I'm going back and I'm going to change it to vertical. Okay. And now I'll just make my petal. And you could, I mean, there's so many different shapes. You don't have to stick to traditional, just make your own shapes. Oop, that didn't work. Sometimes I have to reset for the new layer, which is weird. It should be all around. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and there we go. That seems like a pretty good shape. It's open over here. I want to flood it, so I want it to be closed. So I could just grab from the upper right-hand side. No! Preposterous. Oh, it's because I used the airbrush. Oh, silly me. That's okay. I like to use like a kind of like a solid brush. This one's not going to be as straight, is it? Oh, that's good. Now I can flood it. Ah, fantastic. All right, another tool in Procreate, and you could absolutely do this with like Photoshop, GIMP, Krita. If you select the area with a mask, you can actually mask this out. But for Procreate, I'm going to go ahead and do an alpha lock. And that helps me if I were to want to draw. You see, it's not drawing outside of the line, which is super helpful. And now I'm going to just add a few colors and texture. I usually like to use this cotton brush. It's down here by the organic brushes. They have a lot of cool ones. So I'm going to use that. And I don't know, I'm going to start with a little brown in the middle. I'm just going to do that. And I'm going to add some dimension. This one's going to be super springy. Where's my color wheel? Hold on, I messed myself up. Where are you? Just am I bugging? Anyways, I'll do that. Put a little. No, green should be in the middle. Here we go. Alrighty. Adding some more dimension. You know, you could add like small details too. Like I usually like to put some polka dots and stuff like that. Little green polka dots are fine. Gonna use tinderbox because I like. Nope, too small. Nope, too light. And I'm gonna turn off the symmetry because I think I'm done with that one. Ooh, don't look. All right, cool. Now I can do some small details. Now, just like little whimsical details. Make it look super duper cute. And I'll do some white spots too. Okay. I think that's good. Yep, that's fine. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to arrange my flower petal. So what I always like to do is I like to keep a hard copy of the original, and then I duplicate and I just turn that off. And gonna go to my transform. You know, it's funny. Are you guys chatting? Yes, there's a lot of chats. All right, cool. I have to being told you got the job you never did. April Fools. What? Oh my gosh. I just saw that in the chat. No mistakes, only happy accidents. Yes. You got to make them into happy trees. You know, that man is very smart and obsessed with squirrels. Or at least that's what I heard. Okay. So I'm going to go do a duplicate and, you know, just have fun with this part. You know, arrange your flowers. This one's turning out to be super cool. See? And what I usually like to do is I like to position my flowers. And one more. Okay. So I have my flower, but you know, the flower petals themselves are super duper uniform at the moment. So what we can do is we give it a little bit of a warp. Thank you, Ash. So you warp it and give it some movement because really, you know, that feels a little more natural. So as you can see, I have some character going on. See, now we get a little dancy. We keep going here. And it does change the petal shape a little bit, but you know, I like the way it's turning out with all that. See? And then the last one. I hope you guys don't hear the babies crying outside. There you go. Now, that is a pretty flower. So, what I am going to do now, right now I am in Procreate, but like I said, you could use anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to group this, keep that together, and sometimes renaming would be nice. You know, name your groups. There we go. Cool. And then I'm going to position. Actually, before I scale this down, I am going to duplicate so I can keep that original and then scale it down. Whoops. Not do that. Okay, so first part of our trim sheet. And to be able to add more dimension to the flower in Blender, what we're going to do is we're going to make another duplicate of the petal. And we're going to scale it and we're going to put it aside. So we can add a little more dimension to that. Okay. So now let's do a leaf. So same process I usually use. I'm going to go ahead and do my drawing guide. Actually, yeah, I did. Okay. Just making sure I did a new layer. Add that symmetry. And I can just turn these off for now so I'm not distracted. And we can use, here we go. So now, the last time I made it like a curly like leaf, but we can do something like that. No. Oh, I know. All right, I'll redraw that. So if you have any paintbrushes, any paintbrushes that have like holes and stuff, the flooding just doesn't work. Trim sheet. Trim sheet is called the trim sheet. Okay. There we go. Maybe I'll make the leaf a little better this time. And I'm gonna put a little stem on it this time. And I'm being like super loose with it. Make it a little. Ah, okay.
How did you narrow it again?
Narrow it or mirror it?
Making a mirror.
Okay, so if I were to select the wrench and go down to turning on the drawing guide, it will allow you to press on this edit drawing guide. And then you have options to do stuff in here. But what we're using is symmetry, and you don't need to do anything else. Just click on that one and press done. And now you have the option to do some symmetry. Okay. Now I have my leaf, and once again, I'm going to turn on that alpha lock on the layer, which is super duper helpful. I'm going to go back to my cotton brush. I really do like that one. And oops, turn it down. Maybe it's too big. Add some details. I like to just give it that, you know, variant, like a gradient type color. You know, really add some dimension to it. Could also put this peach color in the edges. I'm gonna just turn this down a little bit. There you go. Nice. Turn this down just a smidge so that I can add this little dimension. Not too much. I mean, depends on how much detail you want. I could spend a whole lot of time doing this. And it's so therapeutic, you don't even know. Alrighty, so now that I have my leaf, I would actually like to give it some of those spotty details. Oh, I don't like symmetry when it comes to that part. So I'm going to turn that off. Okay. So now add those details. See? Really, really pretty. And like really, truly, you don't really need to overthink it. As long as it has the shape, you could pull it off, calling it a flower. One more small detail here, because why not? Oops. I don't like how that. And that's just fine. So now I'm going to arrange this in two different ways. So I usually like to make kind of like a bundle and then a single. So I am going to make a duplicate. And I'm going to just bring this one down there. That way I have that copy. Okie dokie. And I'm going to bring my flowers back. Okay. Now I'm going to take this. And I'm going to put it there. This one's going to be super springy. I like these colors. Okay. And now let's make a bundle here. And I usually like to do this because it tends to make the flower feel full. Oops. There we are. Oops. And sometimes these things get in the way. Once again, I am positioning. Ooh. I'm struggling today. I don't know. It's probably the way I'm sitting right now. I'm not comfortable. My arm's getting tired. So, alrighty. I'm going to start warping. So now I can warp this into a shape. Make happy trees. Now I have that in my head. And as you can see, the movement really gives it character, you know? And you could even go as far as like in each individual one afterwards, you could paint in some like shadowing and stuff like that to give the art some depth, but not necessarily. So, all right. You see that? I just constructed a whole flower with just some elements. And there you go. So I have my flower, my petal, my leaf, and my leaf bundle. What I usually like to do is I like to give some I like to give some color for the stem in case I wanted to do a stem, because you don't necessarily always have to use a stem. Like if you made like a little bush and just had the flowers hovering over it, that's just fine too. It really like it's up to you. You're the artist. It's how you want to express it, you know? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that. So this tape icon, I'm going to do rectangle, and then I'm going to just mask off. Whoops. I'm just going to mask off a rectangle here. There we go. And now I'll just flood it with this color. Oops. Make sure you make a new layer and then flood it. Perfect. Then I can go backwards with those different colors. I'm gonna use that one. I'm gonna go back in with that cotton brush. Okay, cool. And one more step. Give it a nice gradient. Nice. I think that's good. Okay, so let's send this off to Blender now. Actually, one thing to note is when I am cutting this in Blender, which I actually hit a snag before, I'm going to use this just to show you. When I cut this in Blender, of course, I'm gonna end up wanting to cut like this with the geometry. This will be a round shape, but this one, as you can see, it kind of like goes into the flower. So I'm gonna give it some room to not do that. So it will just make my life easy. Oh, I forgot to do this. Group. I'm gonna rename this leaf bundle. Nice. Okay. So I want to move that. Why do I have you selected? Oh, geez. Let me take this out. Okay, now I can move it. Nope. Make sure you have the right selection tool and give it a good amount of space so that the geometry will be nice and even around that. Just like the bounding box looks right now. That would be just fine. Okay. Now let's, while I send that off, I'm gonna move my iPad. So here is the flower I made for the challenge. But let's make another one. This time I didn't make the dirt pile. It's not necessarily necessary. Oh my God, I don't know why I keep saying that. It's not necessary. But you can make a pot. You can make a pot with a different material. You could do a whole bunch of stuff. So I do that. I'm gonna create a new collection for this piece. I'm gonna do always label. I usually like to use my Google Drive to send over items. It's just super easy from the iPad. Okay, so a few more things. I just need to open up my drive and show you guys what that flower looks like. And you know what? I think I made a mistake. I left the background on that flower, which of course, when you send it over, definitely take off the background so you can have a nice transparency. Here is our flower ready to go. So let's bring it into Blender. Okay, so we're in Blender. So first off, what I'd like to do is I'd like to do the flower. In the tutorial posted in the forum, I did do the leaf first. However, this time I like to get straight to the flower. What I usually like to do is I like to do Shift A, and oops, I forgot to turn on my screen keys. Do I even have them? No. Oh. I know I downloaded it, but okay, well, I don't have time for, ain't nobody got time for that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Shift A, and I'm going to start with a cube. And the reason for that is I always like to create a cube sphere. So I'm going to go ahead and have this selected, add a modifier, add modifier, and then I'm going to search for the subdivision surface modifier. Okay, cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press 3. And I'm going to take this tab into edit mode. Oh, no, I'm sorry. First, I need to apply the subdivision surface modifier. And that's because I need to delete geometry now. So I'm going to turn on this X-ray, toggle X-ray, so I can grab everything along the way. So I'm going to just drag and delete faces. Now I have this dome shape, which is pretty helpful. Okay, And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale this. So I'm going to do scale in this by pressing 0. And that's going to be very helpful doing this model. So another thing is I'm going to turn off that X-ray mode because I don't need it at the moment. I'm going to do my edge select tool. And I'm going to do Shift Alt, and I'm going to select this edge here. Actually, all these edges, there we go. And then I'm going to scale this. Look, I have my proportional selection on. Jeez, that always messes me up when I forget to turn that off. Okay, and now I'm going to press S to scale. And I'm going to scale this just like that. So it's fairly even. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press A, and I'm going to give it just a little more geometry by just doing that subdivide. That's actually too much. I'll just leave it like that for now. Or I could just add some edge loops manually. There we go. That's all I want. Because we don't want this to be too expensive either. Because you're going to want to make a whole garden, you know? Nudge, nudge. Okay, that geometry looks pretty solid. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my material. Going to this materials tab, adding new, and I'm going to call this one flower 2. And this is the important part. And the reason for our meeting today is that underscore masked. So the reason why we have commands here is we're telling Horizon, hey, I have this transparent texture, but I need to tell you how to use it. I need to tell you what to do with this texture. And so Horizon is going to see this underscore mask and say, hey, okay, you have a texture with sharp edges. So I'm going to act like A, B, and C. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to import that texture. I have to make sure I actually placed it somewhere good. Okay. So I'm going to go base color. I'm going to click on this yellow dot. Whoops. And then I'm going to go to image texture, open. And then I'm going to find that texture. And don't judge my desktop at the moment. There is so much going on. And hold on. What is that? Oh, wait. There we go. There we are. Okay, open image. And now we need to see the image. So we're going to go up to the viewport shading, click on this materials one, and don't worry, we're going to fix this part. But one part I do like to do in Blender is I like to turn on the, I like to turn on that transparency. So what I like to do is I usually like to make the window here instead of going to the shading tab. It's up to you, but to me, this is just quicker. Alrighty, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on that shader editor. Press N to get rid of that menu. And all we need to do is just connect alpha to alpha. And now we have our transparency, which is super neat. Okay, and to get rid of this window, because sometimes we have a little bit of an oopsie, right? And we have like 5 million windows, we can get rid of that by hovering our mouse over this border here, right click, and I'm going to join left, right click, join left, right click, join left. You don't even know how long it took me to learn that. I was so frustrated doing it the other way. Okay, now we need to fix this texture. So what we're going to do is we're going to the UV editing. And as you can see, the previous flower was there. I'm going to go ahead and with my mouse hovered over to the right-hand side of our viewport, I'm going to press 7 to go into that orthographic view. Then what I'm going to do is we're going to kind of like project. So I'm going to press A. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to UV on the upper right and then project from view. Now our UV is corrected. So then I'm going to go ahead and press A over here, G, and start positioning. And then scale. And there we have it. We have our flower. Okay. So another thing is I'd like to fix the origin. So I'm going to press Tab. And I'm going to do Object, Set Origin to Geometry. That way that is nice and centered there. Okay. So another thing is we're going to press Tab. And we're going to shape this flower now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the proportional editing. And like, yeah, you can kind of like change the scale of the proportion here, but I usually like to use my middle mouse button to scroll. I'm going to go back to layout actually, because that was a little, there we are. Get some real estate back. I'd actually like to join this down so I could get a little more real estate. Okay, pressing Tab. I'm going to go to vert selection mode and select my vert, that center vert. And then with my proportional editing on, I'm going to press G. And I think that's a good scale for the proportional editing. And then I'm going to press Z because we want to go straight down. We don't want it to go in any other direction. So here we are. And look at that. Pretty good. Just a little nudge more. Make it a little more dramatic. Okay. And now what I'd like to do is Shift Alt and select the outside of this and kind of like bring these edges down a bit. So I'm going to press G, Z, and then actually make this smaller. I scrolled up to make it a little smaller. And there we go. It's a nice flower. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade smooth. That way it's nice and smooth too. Pretty neat. Okay. And so if we look at the face orientation, of course, we have, that's not going to be good for horizon, but we will fix that afterwards. So I'm going to turn that back off. Okay, cool. Now what we're going to do is we're going to hide this away and work on the next piece. Alrighty. So I'm going to do Shift A and I'm going to create that plane. I can simply just add the material from this dropdown, find flower 2, and look at that. We are doing good. Okay, so we can go back to the UV editing because all we need is squares now. We made it super simple for that bounding box. I'm going to press 7 for orthographic view. And now I can just choose my items. So I'm going to press A, and you can scale by X and Y here. So if I press S and scale by X, now I can squish. And then I'm going to press G. And make sure you turn off that proportional editing. It can actually mess you up if you forget it's there. Alrighty. I usually like to zoom in to see what I'm doing because
Okay, I
I'm
got a quick
blind.
question.
Yep.
Yeah. You have to remind me, what's the difference between can you say it, proportional editing and hard surface one?
So the proportional editing is mainly like if I were to let me go back to that flower. So if I were to, it's off. Okay. If I were to grab this and just move it, right? Nothing comes with it. And it's gonna make for very jaggedy, like, I mean, not really. I mean, you could kind of like nudge into place. However, with that said, if I wanted a more smooth selection, right? I'll turn on that proportional editing, press G, and if I wanted to have the whole section go with it, it's just a lot smoother. This is very low geo, so it's not going to really show that great of a difference. But as you can see, this is a little more softer, you know? So you could do a lot of like modeling this way. I mean, you could use both ways to do modeling, but I do have a preference for this one due to how smooth it can get. Like for example, if I were to create mountains and stuff like that, I wouldn't want just to select one vertice to move that mountain. I would want to select a group of vertices. And what that's doing is it's selecting uh, a group within, you see that ring within that radius. So the more I open up that radius, the more stuff brings with it. And you see it's kind of like buoyant and jello-y, you know? That's basically the difference.
All right,
I,
thanks.
I hope that helps. um, Okie doke. So, did I mess it up? No, yeah, I think it's fine. Okay. Um, oh, and remember, folks, save a lot, save often. Because if not, you're going to be crying and relying on backups. Okay, so let's get back to UV editing. Okay, and cool. Alrighty, so I have this one done, actually. So I'm gonna do Shift D and just duplicate it, right? Ooh. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this and just keep duplicating until I get everything I need, which is just one more item. Let's see, making sure those bounding boxes are good in Procreate really sets you up for success when it comes to doing things like this. Okay, cool. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add some geometry to this, right? Because we need it to move. So I'm going to go ahead and do Control R. And yeah, that vert right down the middle is pretty good. Now we don't need to do a lot of geometry to these pieces because these are kind of like the decorative pieces. And you don't want to make this too expensive. Okay, so now I'm going to do Control R again and give it those two edge loops. Okie doke. Now, I'm going to go ahead and do that proportional editing again. Actually, I don't think I really needed it at this moment, but I like to just kind of like bring this part up a little bit Actually, yeah. I'm gonna bring those up. And, you know, just model it, mold it. Let's scale this in a little bit. Take those. See, now it's doing something. Saw that. Bring that in a little bit. Yeah, that's good. Actually, can scale this too, like, you know, not too bad. Okay, I'll consider that one done. Shade smooth so that it's nice and smooth. Do the same for the leaf. Kind of looks like arugula or something. Is there arugula? Am I thinking of the wrong thing? Somebody correct me, please. Okay.
It does look like arugula.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought. I thought I had the wrong word. The wrong name, I mean. Okay. And I'd like to bring this part up. See? And a little bit in the middle there. Super duper simple. Okay, cool. Shade smooth. Alrighty. And so now another way to set us up for success is those origin points. So for example, I always like to do it, and as you should, do a shift right click there. And with that geometry selected, object, set origin to 3D cursor. Okay. Now, you know, I did download it, and I did install it the other day, but I'm not sure why it's not showing. My apologies. I'll have it set up for next time. Okay, so I'm going to do this again. I'm going to do that origin point again. So I'm going to do shift, right click at this point here. And I'm being very loose with it. You could be as precise or loose as you want. It really depends on what you need. I'm going to do object, set origin to 3D cursor. And now if I wanted to arrange, I can arrange from there, which is super helpful. Okie doke. Now I'm going to just set these guys aside and bring back that flower. And I'm going to raise that flower up. So I'm going to do GZ. I'm going to turn on my snapping. And I want to make sure it's at center vertex. I'm going to take this guy with this brand new origin point. I'm going to press G, and then I'm going to just snap it to that point there and scale it down. Makes it so easy, so simple. And then I can rotate from here, right? And I can rotate from here to give it some dimension, pressing 7 for orthographic view, which is super helpful. Definitely get familiar with those orthographic views because they could be a lifesaver. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, whoop, my bad. I'm going to do another Shift D, and I'm going to press R by the Z axis, and I'm going to rotate again. Whoops. And I can keep going. Coming out super pretty. And there you have it. Now, honestly, you don't need that much. And if you wanted to, create like an extra full flower, you could use the same geometry. So I might pivot, but let me just be sure if that's what I want to do. Because you could do some stragglies and it's fine. Or, and I'll just hide those guys. Okay. Or what you can do is Shift D, G, Z, bring this down, go back to my orthographic view, rotate, and you also have an extra full flower. And then you can absolutely model this one down a little more. I'm gonna press Tab. I'm gonna go to my edge selection, select that, and just bring this down. So now it's a nice full flower. I could even take this top one, press Tab, select that center, G, Z, and bring that down so that it is not like that. Hold on. That's good. And there you have it. Now you have a full flower. So, I mean, you could do it either way. Depends on how you do it, you know, depends. Depends on what you want. Okay, so now let's, sorry, my dog's barking outside. You guys hear the dogs barking? I have the windows open.
No, we can't. I can't hear it.
No, I don't hear it.
All right, good.
I don't either.
All right, cool. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'd like to do a Shift A, and I'm going to create a Bezier curve. I can never say that. And actually, I don't like where it landed because my cursor is all the way in limbo. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Shift S, and I'm going to return that cursor back to world origin. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to do Shift A, curve, the Bezier, whatever you call it. You're going to rotate it by Y, 90 degrees. Now we're in a good position. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press 3. And I'm going to select that and then go Tab. And now I can grab these points and place them where I need to. And I'm going to turn off the snapping. G and then Z. And that is good. And you can actually change the curve to this. So I'll grab that handle here and I'm going to rotate. Whoops. Actually, I'm going to grab. And as you can see, now I have a very dancey stem. I'm going to, nope. I'm going to actually rotate this one. There we go. Very cool. Okie dokie. So I'm going to tab back to object mode. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to where it says data. And this is where you play around with all of the nodes for this geometry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to geometry and I'm going to go to depth and add that geometry. And what I usually like to do is I usually like to see what the geo looks like. And actually, wireframe mode, for some reason, it's just not it for me. I usually like to turn on the wireframe from the viewport overlays. There we go, much better. And I'm going to start taking this resolution down. That's a little better. I mean, it really depends on how low poly you want it. I forget which one is it. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And that's fine. So I'm gonna press tab. Actually, no, I am already in object mode. What I'm going to do is I have this geometry selected. I can right click, convert this mesh to this curve to mesh. So there we have it. And now I can actually tweak this mesh by pressing tab. And I can do that proportional editing again. Alrighty. Sorry, super distracted today. With X-ray view on, grab those points there, and then I'm going to press S, and I'm going to bring up this little bit. There we go. And bring that up. Okay, much better. And I could do that at the bottom. I can make it a little thicker. I'm going to do scaling. Now it looks whimsical, which is totally my vibe. I'll check it out after. Okay. All right, cool. Now I have something going on. Let's see what the UV mapping looks like. So since that was like generated, like basically this geometry was generated, I'm gonna go, oh, I am already in UV editing. Wow. I'm gonna go ahead and assign my texture, press tab. And as you can see, the geometry has pretty perfect UVs. So I'm good to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press S to scale, and I'm going to bring this to where the stem part is. Scale by X, scale by Y. And that is pretty good. Oh my goodness. I made a mistake. I only did this section for UVing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press A, and I have the entire thing here. And that happens. Mistakes happen. All right. And I'm making a happy flower with it. Pressing A, and now you can go ahead and situate yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and press S to scale. Scale again. I'm going to bring this towards the center the best I can. Scale by Y. Let's see what orientation this is in. No. As you can see, I have a hard line here, and that's because I'm in the wrong angle. So that's okay. We can fix that by pressing rotate 90 degrees, scaling by X, scaling by Y. And now we are good. Okay, going back to layout mode. Let's take a look at our stem. It's looking really pretty. Okay, so now let's go to the leaf. Okay, once again, I like to turn on my snapping tool. And then I'm going to press G and then just snap that to a vert over here. Now, you don't need to fill this much if you made the leaf bundle. Kind of like it that size, to be honest, but I'm going to just, whoops. I'm going to scale this. Bring that up just a smidge. Cool. And you could fill this as much or as little as you want. So I'm going to do Shift D and whoops. I snapped to something I didn't want to snap to. Okay, and I'm going to rotate by that Z axis. Okay, and I'm going to just rotate this down just a bit. Give this a better vertice to lay on. There we go. Super cute. All right, let's add one more element and our flower would be done. So I'm going to go ahead and Shift A, add one more plane. I'm going to press / to isolate so I can see what I'm doing. And add that material. So here we are again, and I need to cut this big part out. So going back to UV editing, / so it's just that. And going to, oops. You can absolutely grab just verts and press GX. Just go along that way. And I still have my proportional editing on. GX. And I think that might be pretty solid. Okay. Now let's go back. Do the same thing we did before. Control R, create them edge loops. I'd actually like to put one right there. And Control R. Cool. Pressing A so I can just squish. Whoops. Squish this down a bit. Nice. Okie doke. Now what I'd like to do I think that's good enough. Okay. Right click, shade smooth, / and add that pivot. Okie doke. I'm gonna press G. Now, usually these pieces live at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is there we go. I like it there. And I can nudge it a little bit. I'm going to turn off the snapping and I'm going to press G and then X to just smush that in there a little bit. G. Cool. And I'm going to rotate, just using my camera angles to guide the way. Nice. And I could do another one too. Shift D, rotate by Z. I could do one more. Why not? Why not? Shift D, rotate by Z, and rotate this up a little smidge. And actually make this one smaller. Actually, I like them small. So, yeah, that's good. All right. So, very cool. It really came together. So, there's a few things you could do. You could also just kind of like duplicate the flower and make it like triple flowers and stuff. But I think this one looks nice like this. Alrighty. So there's one thing we are missing. And what I'm going to do is I'm really happy with how this flower is looking. I'm really happy with the positions and all that. What I usually like to do is I like to do the solidify modifier all together by just joining the objects that I'm working with. because as you can see, the normals, and by the way, I am version 4.40 in case anyone is wondering. What I'm going to do is add that solidify modifier. So, and there you go, quick fix. I'm just going to leave it like that. Didn't have to do anything else. I will like to just bundle this together. Joining, no. Oh, I know what happened. Haha. I have to apply before I join it. So there we go. And the reason why I didn't put the solidify modifier on the stem is because you're going to generate geo you don't really need. So, and there you have it. There is my flower. Let's see what it looks like bundled. Actually, yep. Just going to apply all those transforms. Let's see what it looks like with this other flower. Now we can make a garden. So orthographic view, take that, rotate. I usually like to do some arranging. There you go, some flowers. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. What do you think? What do you think? How was Bezier converted to mesh with thickness? Okay, so let's show you again how that looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Shift A. I'm going to create that curve, and I'm going to just leave this as default. Going here to this data tab. Then I'm going to go to geometry, and then I'm going to bring up that no, oh, sorry, not geometry, my bad, bevel. And then I'm going to bring this up. And as you can see, now I made a tube. And what's cool about the tube is if I press tab, since it's not converted yet.
I don't see that that curvy green line on my options there.
Do you have the curve selected? You have to have the curve selected.
Yeah, I have the curve selected. And then
what Blender version are you?
4.0.
Okay. Interesting.
I have the three. It looks like a triangle with three squares in the corners instead of that one.
Did you do Bezier curve?
Yeah.
Well, okay. You want to share your screen?
Okay. Oh, I'm not in the
Oh, you know what? We could do that in the water cooler afterwards. So
Yeah.
I can help you troubleshoot that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. All right, cool. But yeah, that's basically how you do that. Oh, I was gonna show basically with the curves, you could do a lot of like really cool stuff with the curves. Where am I?
I'm
Here.
also not seeing the curve. So I'm having the same issue.
Really?
Yeah.
Hold the phone. Hold the phone.
I
That can't
definitely have
be.
it selected.
All right, so I'm gonna do Shift A.
And I've been trying to do
Curve.
this for a while because I've heard about this.
Bezier curve, right? You make the Bezier curve, and you have it selected orange, and you don't see this guy.
I'm gonna double check.
Yeah, please try it.
Hold on, it's for whatever reason. I'm in 4.4. That wouldn't make any difference, right?
No, I have 4.4
Is
too. I
there?
have the newest.
Oh, nice. Wait a minute. I swear to you, not. It was not there a second ago, but it's there now.
Ah, you see?
How did I add it before that it didn't come? I did the Shift A here.
Were you in edit mode when you hit Shift A?
You know, I think I was.
If you
That might have
were,
been
if
it.
you're not in object mode, it'll make a mesh thing underneath the. And that's why
Okay,
we don't
then that
click
makes
it.
Yep.
sense. That may be what Tanzer's having too. Then
Yeah, that's true. Might be.
I'm a prompt engineer / troubleshooter.
heck yeah.
Prompt engineer. Okay, so well, the last thing I actually wanted to show before we set off, and I do, yeah, try going into object mode, Tanzer, and see if that
Yeah, add it
populates.
while in object mode. That's what made it come up for me.
Let me show you. So if I were to have one of these points selected with the geometry generated, I could press E and I can actually extrude and E, and you can make a lot of cool stuff.
This is what I've been trying to do. I'm so excited.
Yeah, you see? And if you press scale, it scales the controls, or you
It's
can
a
just
dog.
take the controls. Yeah, it's oh yeah, little snoot. There you go. You could do a lot of cool stuff with that. You could even make a tunnel if you made this really big, and solidify this after you generated the mesh. You can make a whole tunnel system, which is cool. So to generate this, to basically make this into mesh, you do right click, convert to mesh, and make sure you're on object mode for sure. Now you have mesh that you can mess around with. That is super cool. And the geo and the not the geo, the UVs are clean, so they automatically generate as a perfect square. So yeah, you don't really need to do much unless you cut into the geo, and then you would have to re-UV. So, you know, fun things to play around with.